Well, good morning and welcome to another episode of the Fells of Great Britain. It's been a while since I last walked, in fact almost a year. I had a health problem last May which put me out of action until September, and then my poor wife had a health problem which put her out of action until well after Christmas. And so this is my first opportunity to get out again after almost a year, as I've said. And what a day it is today. When I arrived last night, it was very blustery, not as the weather forecast had said, and I thought, well, today, the day of my walk, was probably going to be sunny, but a day in which I was going to be blown off my feet. But this morning I woke up to absolute tranquility, total calm, and I think I've got a very good day in prospect. So where am I? Well, I'm in the Lake District again, and because I've been out of action for a year, I've decided to do something relatively easy, something that I'm familiar with. And this particular walk I've done a couple of times before, and it really is quite splendid because it's going to take in a bit of a walk around the lake, around Crummock Water in the northern Lake District, and then we're going to go up a small fell called Mellbreak. So let's take a look at the route for today. The Lake District National Park lies in the northwest of England, and we begin our walk today on one of its 20 major lakes, Crummock Water. Starting at Lakeland Farm, we head north along the eastern shore of Crummock Water through Lakeland Woods, and at the head of the lake we cross the River Cocker at the weir. From here we now head due south along the western shore of the lake. At the beautiful secluded beach, we now head west around the foot of Mellbreak's northern ridge, passing through open pasture land and a beautiful woodland area before we eventually reach the path that will take us up Mellbreak's northern ridge and onto its famous Scree, from where we access the summit. The ridge path is clearly defined, but much of it is on very loose ground and is very steep. But the entire ascent via this route is very brief, and so the exertion of it all is over quite quickly. From Mellbreak's northern top, we head south to the base of the saddle that sits between the two summits of this mountain. From here we head steeply west, but briefly down towards Mosedale Beck. We now head north along Mellbreak's western flank to the woodland area where the North Ridge path starts. The final leg of this route essentially follows the path taken at its start. Throughout this part of the route we gain splendid views across Crummock Water to its eastern shore, which is flanked by two prominent mountains, Whiteside and Grassmoor. Finally, we retrace our steps back through Lakeland Wood to the beginning of the route. The route is 7.5 miles in length and will take anywhere between 4 and 6 hours to complete, depending on how many stops one has, in order to enjoy the splendid views that are available throughout. So this is Crummock Water. It's a splendid lake. It's one of two lakes in this valley, the most famous being Buttermere. And this particular lake, Crummock Water, doesn't get the same visitor numbers. And that's a benefit for me today because I won't be bothered by people walking by thinking, what's he up to, talking to himself. So across there is Mellbreak. That's where we're going to go today. And on the right hand side, you can see a ridge, which I'll talk more about later on in this video. It's a beautiful lake and a lovely day today. Couldn't have wished for more. Now over there we've got the fells that start to surround Buttermere, and that's Red Pike over there, and then to the left you can see High Stile, and then right over in the far left is High Crag. So let's crack on. Just got to ford this little stream here. A little bit tricky for my old legs. But what I love about this walk is the variation. You've got this lovely saunter through woodland around the lake, and then, as we'll see later, we open out into proper mountainous territory. And it really is quite doable. You'll have seen from the route description that it's about 7.5 miles, and we only climb about 1,200 feet or so. So as you'll see, we're quite early in the year. The foliage on many of the trees is yet to be deployed, so it doesn't look particularly green at the moment, but wonderful in this light and very calm now. So over there on the right hand side is Fellbarrow, and in this little cusp in between, this little U-shaped depression, it's not really steep enough to be called a valley, is Loweswater, one of the smallest lakes in the Lake District. And I haven't got in my head the name of these hills over here. One of them is Hencombe, but I don't think that's in view right now. Well, here we are at the northern end of Crummock Water. And it gets a bit industrial here, doesn't it? Got this wonderful natural backdrop of the lake and this terminal weir. Now, Crummock Water isn't a proper reservoir, but the water utility up here does abstract from here. So this outflow goes into the River Cocker, and water is taken from there to service towns like Cockermouth. And over here we've got a regular location for free swimmers. Just had a nice chat with one lady. I thought it would be inappropriate to stand there filming. You can see one little head bobbing in the water over there. Very popular location. All year round people swim in this lake from this very location. I love how water, depending on the gradient, can go from this, very tranquil, to within just a few feet, this, and just a drop of a few feet is causing this flow. Very impressive. Nice view of Grasmere on the left. Sorry, not Grasmore, sorry. Now, as I said, Crummock Water is one of two lakes in this huge valley that runs from where I am now to Honister Pass in the south. We go through Buttermere village and then along the side of Buttermere up to Honister Pass. And these two lakes, Crummock Water and Buttermere, were once one lake, but over many thousands of years, the rivers draining into this huge valley deposited sediment, which tended to build up at the location of the village of Buttermere. And that's why there is some dry land between these two lakes. They're both what are called ribbon lakes, formed by glaciers many thousands of years, which undercut the water table, so that when the water came back after the great melt, it wasn't able to fully drain. The glaciers had actually cut below where the water table was going to be when the thaw took place. Crummock Water itself is about 2.5 miles long. It's about 150 feet deep. and it's a lake which, for all its tranquility today, contributes to a problem that the town of Cockermouth has, and that is that it's very prone to flooding. Cockermouth has had major floods in 2005, 2009, 2015, and there were flood warnings last year. Cockermouth sits at the confluence of the River Cocker, which Crummock Water drains into, and the River Derwent, which runs out from Bassenthwaite Lake, which is very close to Keswick. And I don't think there are any plans to contain the water when we have lots of rain. I think Cockermouth is very low-lying, quite difficult to protect. So anyway, enough of my jibber-jabber. Let's just have a look over here. And there we are, that's Grassmoor, very close to where I'm parked. And over here we've got Whiteside. And then coming around here, this is why I wanted to do this walk as one of my first after my period of illness, because it is really a very cathartic experience to walk around this lake on a day like this. It really is absolutely fantastic. If I just move the camera down, you can see that the water is absolutely clear. Oh, it's just lovely, absolutely lovely. I do hope this camera work comes through on the video so that many of you can get some kind of vicarious pleasure from what I'm experiencing right now. I have no idea if I'm going to get up Mellbreak. I'm very unfit, but we'll see how we do. I think I'll next catch you when I get to the foot of Mellbreak's northern ridge and we start the ascent up a little bit of a scree, which I'll talk more about then. I've just stopped here again at the lakeside to talk about that mountain in the centre of view, which is actually right up against the eastern shore of Crummock Water. That's Ranadale Knot, and that's a splendid climb and very easy to do, just a couple of hours. But I looked into its history, and it's noted in historical records for a little bit of a skirmish or battle that took place between the local people here and the Normans after the Norman conquest in 1066. A lot of people think that the Battle of Hastings was fought, the Normans won, and that was it, that was the end of it. But of course the Normans had to move north through the country and subdue the local people. Many of the local people put up a bit of a fight, and apparently there was a defence launched from Ranadale Knot by local people to try and stave off incursions by the Normans. But of course history tells us that the Normans eventually subdued everybody in this country, and certainly in England the whole country became under Norman rule. So the variation in this walk is quite captivating. We've been through woodland, around the lake, and now we're onto pasture, but still by the lakeside. Oh my, I remember this from my last walk. This little beach at the very northern tip of Crummock Water. When I was last here, it was later in the year, around the end of May, and there were people who'd come here on paddle boards all the way from just outside Buttermere. What a splendid thing to do. Not something I could entertain at my age now. Some lovely horses down there. They're having a bit of a snooze, I think. I think horses can actually doze standing up. Beautiful. So we're coming round now to the northern end of Mellbreak. Now Wainwright in his guide says that there is a route up this flank here, but only one route, and you do have to find it, so it's not something I would ever entertain doing. So we start this little bit of a climb up this pasture to the gate over there, I think. When I did this for the first time, this navigation was a little bit difficult because you couldn't quite see what the thoroughfare was to get you to the foot of Mellbreak. One of the benefits from having done a walk before is that you can just recall it on your phone and follow the red line. Follow the yellow brick road. Across this stile. At my age, it's something you do never in style. You just cross the stile. Looks like such a trivial thing, which it would have been in my 20s. But for someone like me who's almost 70, it's a bit of a challenge. So we saunter down here, as I remember, and then we're not far now from the main path round to the northern ridge of Mellbreak. And if you look up there, you can just see it there on the right hand side of the screen. One of the things I'm so thankful for in this country is that there are these public rights of way that effectively go through people's farms, and they're obliged to grant people access, and many of them do quite a good job of keeping the paths in good repair. So I'm very grateful for that. In fact, I'm grateful for the whole idea of a national park in this country, Lake District being one of several. So very different from the early part of the last century, when the peasants, the working class, were really not allowed access to any of the countryside. It was all fenced off and owned, and if you set foot on it, you were trespassing. And it took many, many protests and demonstrations over very many years for the government to finally recognise a British citizen's right to roam. And long may it last and be preserved for one and all. Right, well, coming round here now is a lovely view of Grasmere and Whiteside. Quite splendid. Well, a helpful sign if you're going to either Crummock Water or Buttermere. But if you're going up Mellbreak, one wouldn't know if this is the route, except I've done it before, so this is the route. Always close the gates and put the latches back on. Now then, I will need to consult my phone just to see where I go. So we're walking around the flank of Mellbreak, trying to find the route up the Scree. I remember when I did this last time, I had to keep stopping because I couldn't quite remember where it was, but I've got the benefit of my phone route today. If you look up here, you can see lots of Screes, and as it turns out, that's not a viable option. We need to walk further round. And this path skirts all the way around the northern flank of Mellbreak. A little bit out of breath. I am so out of form. I just hope I can do this walk today. Maybe I shouldn't have attempted it after such a long break. met a few people who've said, "Oh, Mellbreak, oh, good luck with that. Never been up there myself." But it's actually, compared to the things I've been doing in the last few years, it's really not much of a mountain. It's 1,600 feet above sea level, which is half Scafell and most of the other big mountains in the Lake District. So I thought it would be easy enough, but it might not prove that way for me. We'll see. Right, well, here we are at the turn. If you come up from Loweswater, you come up from that gate there. And I've walked around the flank of Mellbreak here. And I'm going to have a bit of a rest, something to drink, and then I'm going to go up here. I have no idea if I'm going to succeed in this quest today. I'm going to take my time, and if I hadn't done this route if I didn't have this route recorded on my phone, I don't think I'd take it on today. I might not remember exactly where it is, but I'm hoping that the recorded route on the phone will give me the exact route up to the top. So I might do some shooting on the way, but if not, I'll see you at the top or back at the van, depressed and miserable at having failed. Oh, it's a bit of a stiff pull. Here we are then, the start of the Scree, as if it hadn't been bad enough already. The views are terrific. So just on the very far left is Henkham. That's a slog to get up to the top of that from the valley, from Mosedale. This valley you can see in front of you is Mosedale. And there's loads of water there. And Lawton Vale, which is very pretty. But you can see, if I tilt down slightly, you can see that the incline is about 45 degrees. So it's a bit of a slog. A couple ahead of me there. Fitter than me. Oh, just had a bit of a sit down. Just can't get any grip. Oh dear God. To think that a few years ago I did this in the frost. Finally levelled off just a bit. You can really see the views of Lawton Vale opening up now. Lovely sweeping valley, very verdant. Lots of farms. Just move the camera down a bit. That's better. So you can see down there the end of Crummock Water where I've walked round, and down there you can see the woodland that I've been through, and there's Loweswater and Fellbarrow, and on this side we've got Grassmoor and Whiteside. Splendid. Still a way to go though. Well, this wasn't expected. I'd forgotten about this second scree. I thought it was just a bit of a rock climb to the top. But we got this bloody thing. Oh dear. They're so loose underfoot. A little bit at a time, I guess. Right, well this is the second of the viewing points before we get to the summit. I think I'll have a rest here. Oh dear, what an effort. I'm still not there. Worth every penny, or it will be when I get to the top. So from this last vantage point before the summit, let me just show you what's on offer. Okie dokie, so an ever improving view of Lawton Vale and Loweswater over there, and Fellbarrow. And then over here, as I move towards the edge here, Wainwright in his guides talks about what he calls a Peekaboo point. So if you come around this path here and just slip along here, suddenly the whole of Buttermere Vale comes into view. There it is, isn't it beautiful? Look at that. So there we are, you can see the little strip of land between the two lakes. That's what they call a moraine. And that's where Buttermere sits. And then you've got the sweep of Crummock Water here, around part of which I've walked today. Flanked on either side by wonderful mountains. There's Grassmere there, and Mellbreak, of course, on the western flank. And then off in the distance there, around Buttermere, you can see Fleetwith Pike, that ridge in the centre of view. And that's not Dale Head. It'll come to me in a minute. It eludes me at the moment. We've got Runnerdale Knot down there, just by the water's edge. And just behind that tree on the right-hand side, it's not clearly in view, that's Great Gable, one of the tallest mountains in the Lake District. And in front of it, we've got Haystacks. Absolutely splendid. And over there in the distance, you can just about see the Isle of Man. And then to the right, we can see Scotland on the other side of the Solway Firth. Probably won't show up on this camera, but I can see them very clearly. And then, of course, all these unsightly windmills that Ed Millipede is so fond of. I shall sit here for a minute and just regain my strength before pushing on to the top, which is over there. Just about here. Here we are, the summit of Mellbreak. This is the north summit. There are two. They're about the same height, but I'm not planning on going to both today. So, as per normal, we touch the can and say thank you. So over there is the south top, as they say, and I'm on the north top. And Mellbreak stands alone. You really can just go up this one mountain. You can't really make it a string of summits. You can't go from one to another. But isn't it such a splendid climb? Really memorable. And the Scree ascent is exhausting, particularly for me. But for younger folk, give it a try. It is spectacular. Well, that's me rested and fed, and I've had a good drink because I was so dehydrated. It was a pretty stiff climb, and it's really lovely and sunny now. But occasionally you get these squalls, these very, very abrupt and fast breezes, and they just come from nowhere. Most of the time it's very tranquil. So I took the risk of flying the drone nonetheless, just in the hope that I wouldn't get caught in one of these squalls, because the drone is really not capable of handling very high wind speeds. But got some decent shots nonetheless. So now I'm going to make a descent down into Mosedale, which is a very boggy valley, very uninteresting. There are two routes back to the van. I can go right to the bottom of Mosedale and then turn in the direction of Loweswater and walk along the valley floor. The path along that part of the floor is not particularly boggy. It gets much worse as you go south, but we're going to be heading north on that path. Or you can actually come off early in the descent and terrace your way around the flank of Mellbreak, which is what I did last time. So there are two paths. I'll make the decision when I get a bit further down. It's all really a question of how my knees hold out. Yeah, they're 70 years old and they do not like descents. Anyway, catch you later. So I'm just coming now down into this bit of a saddle that sits between the two tops. So we're looking ahead now at the southern top, and we've just come down there from the northern top. And somewhere along here I've got to find the path that goes off to the right, which will take me down the flank of Mellbreak. And it's looking a bit boggy now, as is to be expected in a bit of a groove like this. Very different from the Ascent, which was very dry and rocky. This is really quite squidgy. So here we are, I think, where the path comes off to the descent route. You see, if you continue on the path, you go up the south top. Now, for those of you who haven't done this particular mountain, it's always worth doing both tops. But I can tell you that the views from the south top are not that brilliant. It's quite flat and shelves. It's quite shallow, the incline, so you don't really get nice views off an edge. You get grass in view, which tends to undermine the panorama that you would get. But that said, the north top is still just as bad, really. The best way to view the landscape is to stop off on your way up on that northern ridge that I came up this morning. There were several opportunities to stop and sit on some grass and get some fabulous views. So right now then, I've made the turn to come down the side of the mountain to Mosedale. You can see it's ahead there. You can see the stream glistening in the sun. It's a really boggy environment. There's absolutely nothing there. Very lonely place. And then you can see quite clearly Hincombe. There are no good paths up it. It's an absolute monster to climb, really. You're just on a grassy incline, and it seems pretty endless. So I'm just going to check my phone. Yep, okay, we're on the right route. Wonderful, isn't it, the technology? There was a first occasion, of course, when I hadn't actually done the route, but the phone records what you do And if what you do is a success, then you've got a record of successful routes for future reference. What a wonderful facility. I wonder what Wainwright would have made of that. He probably would have been a stalwart supporter of compasses and maps. But the world has moved on. Myself somewhat begrudgingly. First sheep I've seen on the fell so far today. Okay then, here's the splits in the path. If you carry on down there, you can make a descent down into Mosedale. Gotta say, it looks pretty steep. Or we can terrace our way around on this very faint path here to the right. So let's give that a whirl. It worked all right for me last time, so it should be okay. So look at that down there, wonderful example of a meandering river. And you can see, just in the centre of view now, you can see an oxbow lake is beginning to form. At some point, the two sides will join up and you'll have a little island sat there in the middle of the river. So I don't know why they call them oxbow lakes, because what you have in the centre is ground and not water. So they're not really a lake. Now over here, I've just seen it. I wondered if I would see it. I need to just check that it's actually in view, so I have to demount the camera. Okay, so down there is a lone tree. Can you see that in Mosedale? Wainwright mentions that in his guide because it's, given that he walked all over the fells in Lakeland, he said it's the only example of a single tree being recorded in the Ordnance Survey mapping for the area. The Ordnance Survey maps will give you forestation and land use, but they don't typically show a particular tree. But this lone tree is shown on the map, and it's clearly been there for a very long time because Wainwright wrote his guides between 1953 and 1966. So it's a very old tree, and apparently it's a holly tree, would you believe? Highly unusual for this area. Clearly doesn't grow very quickly, even though there's lots of water available. So this is proving to be quite a stiff path to navigate. Right, so when we get to this part of the path, there are several screes coming down off the mountainside that almost flow across the path, and there are several of them, so it's a bit tricky. There's another one coming up. So one of the things I notice on this route is that you're descending all the time on this path, but you never seem to be getting any closer to the base of the valley. It always seems to be tantalisingly at the same distance away. And of course the reason for this is that the valley floor is actually falling away. It's on an incline, so if you're on the valley floor it's not flat. So we'll eventually converge with the valley floor path because we're descending more quickly. But it's a bit beguiling, isn't it? So through here it's just treacherous. Now people who aren't prepared to take on the Northern Ridge as I did this morning, and who prefer this as a route that's a little easier, I've got to say that this, as an ascent route, would be utterly tedious. And it has to be said that Mellbreak is only the splendid climb that it is because of that northern flank and that ridge. And the views you get on the way up. On this path you only get views of Mosedale. So I recommend all of you watching, all three of you, to not entertain the easier routes up, but go for that northern flank. If a 70-year-old like myself can get up it, well then anybody can. And there are plenty of opportunities along the way to take a rest. So here we are then, back on grass, and we've just got to carry on coursing our way around to the path that I was on this morning when I went up the northern ridge. The two will merge not far actually from the woods, and then I'll be on a return route, a route that I did this morning. Lovely view of Loweswater over there. It's looking quite resplendent, and it will improve when the deciduous trees get their leaf, probably in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Although up here in Lakeland, spring is a bit later. Down south, most of the deciduous trees have gone into leaf by early May, but here it'll probably be mid-May or so. But it's beautiful nonetheless today. And there's a sheep here, entirely unimpressed, taking a leak. Interestingly, the sheep here are not Herdwicks. I don't know what breed they are, but the most ubiquitous sheep in Lakeland is the Herdwick. And these are something else. So over there is the Scree Ascent that I did this morning. And as you look to the top there, of course, that's a blind summit. That's not actually the top. As you ascend, you find that more terrain reveals itself. It's one of the banes of fell walking. You can think that you're near the top, and then suddenly you come over a brow and there's something else. It's incredibly quiet. How could you not spend a few hours here and not be entirely uplifted? A great fix for mental well-being, otherwise known by someone of my age as happiness. We don't talk about happiness anymore, do we? We talk about our mental well-being. But there it is. I am very happy to have completed this walk, especially since I have been out of action for a year, and I wasn't quite sure whether this was going to prove too much for me. Remains to be seen, of course, because I might find that when I wake up tomorrow I can't get out of bed. Who knows? Okay, that completes the descent. We're back down to the woods, and it's just a question of a couple of miles or so back to the lake, and then around the lake back to the car, all of which was done this morning, so it's a repeat of the route this morning. So I think what I'll do is I'll go back to the lake and finish the video there. I won't bother with telling you all about the return route because you saw it this morning. And besides that, I'm absolutely knackered. Oh, I'm reminded of the Monty Python sketch, the parrot sketch, where the parrot is claimed to not be dead, but to have been tired and worn out after a long squawk. Well, the long squawk for me has been walking on the fells for about 6 hours, and I am now, like the parrot, tired and worn out, although hopefully not dead. Well, a fitting end to the walk. Let's end it auspiciously. Oh, lovely animals. And they're just quietly munching away in a setting that they probably can't appreciate. Just look at this. Oh dear. When I was last here a couple of years ago, I had a splendid walk up Mellbreak, but by the time I got back down to the lake, the weather had closed in somewhat and it was really quite gloomy. But just look at this now, the shadows on the mountains are beginning to appear as the sun gets lower in the sky. That's the fantastic thing about mountain scenery. What you see changes with the light and with the movement of the sun. Quite spectacular. And one final look at Mellbreak, the Ascent for today. Well, this brings me to the end of my walk today. I hope you've enjoyed it and got something from it, and that you'll consider doing this walk yourself in future. It's a splendid walk. It's very varied, as I said. We have a lake and a mountain flanking the lake, and a wonderful ascent involving some scree and some real challenge, physical challenge, and beautiful, beautiful scenery. As you just, if you just take a look at this, wonderful. As I walk along the lakeside back to the car now, it really is quite splendid. There aren't many days in the year when it's like this. And the final view of Mellbreak there. I think I said earlier there was a final view, but this is a better final view, isn't it? So, do join me again when I next walk the fells of Great Britain. Bye for now.